Welcome to the new episode of Pivot with PJ. We have a very special guest today with me, Vani Gopalan. What is leadership for you and what it means to develop leaders?
As leaders, I think learn from the smartest person in the room, right? And that is not easy.
What self care means in our roles as leaders.
It's also not only about acquiring the skills, right? But it is about cultivating the right attitude because leadership is right attitude.
I'm PJ and I'm here to navigate the bends of the roads with you. I'm looking forward to it. Let's get on this ride together on Pivot with PJ.
Welcome to the new episode of Pivot with PJ. We have a very special guest today with me, Vani Gopalan. She is an IT executive throughout her career. And it's special because I've been in a part of that tribe in my past life, and I'm super excited to talk to her about the nuances of leading IT organizations and her own interest in leadership and leadership development. Welcome to the show, Vani, and I can't wait to hear from you, your views and your journey. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me here today, PJ. It's such a wonderful pleasure and opportunity for me to connect with you and share my experience. And it's so nice to know that you are from the IT fraternity, and I think we can really dwell into a lot of aspects
Absolutely, I look forward to
together.
that. And my journey in the IT organizations sort of ended about 10 years back, and then I had a brief 1 year, uh, uh, re-entry briefly, and now I'm out of it. But I
Hmm.
think that's I remember all my experiences in the space very fondly, and there has been an immense learning for me in all perspectives. So, see, first thing I'm intrigued about your journey, Vani, more than being an IT professional and IT leader, is your interest and passion for leadership, developing leaders, and developing yourself as more effective leader. So, can you talk a little bit about that? What is leadership for you, and what it means to develop leaders?
Sure, I think that's a very interesting concept for any leader, right? Because for me, leadership is a calling, it's a purpose that you exhibit and bring to the table as a leader. And first, let me talk about leadership development, right? So one has to has have that drive in themselves to grow leaders. And specifically, when you talk about leadership development, it revolves around the focus on one's character. Like, how are you building that in terms of integrity, in terms of responsibility, and really bringing that commitment to the table? And as a leader, uh, equipping with the skills that is required when you're building your followers, right? So it's not only about assigning the tasks, but it is also about how do you assign authority. That's when you're creating more leaders into the organization. And considering the mentorship programs for the leaders who are budding up or the nesting leaders. So throughout my leadership journey, it was an intentional effort, a step that I always took to ensure that I am growing leaders along the way. And it is also not about only you, right? It's about the people, the leadership pipeline that you're creating, and how are you empowering others in that growth parallels. And building trust, I think there's a very interesting concept, and we can talk for hours together, because trust is not just built in a day, and that becomes a very crucial element when you want to build leaders. Are you open to your team or the people whom you're building to be vulnerable? In an open room, are they comfortable in saying that, boss, I don't know this? So are you creating that environment for leaders, and that again cascades to your organization? And developing that servant leadership qualities, because today, what I see in my leadership journey is, like, we are so fast tracking these leadership programs in terms of developing people and getting them to the table. But how many of us are consciously thinking about putting other people's growth first before our own desires? Is a question that one has to ask when you are building the pipeline of leaders. And that's something which I have done consciously, and as you evolve as a leader, it doesn't stop there, right? It's an everyday thing that you want to contribute in somebody's life, to grow up the ladder.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think a couple of things that you said resonates deeply with me. Putting other people's growth first, and servant leadership. Servant leadership is very interesting concept, right? Because I find that more pragmatic than paradoxical, right? A lot of people may think, what is servant leadership? How can they go together, right? It's not paradoxical, it is very pragmatic. Because think about it, as a leader, one of the things that we need to do is create space for ourselves. The more space we create for ourselves, the more effective we can be. And the best way and only way to create that space for ourselves to think strategically, think future, think long term, manage the vision, is to create leaders below us, right? Create people with autonomy, create people with accountability, responsibility, and authority, like you said, to be able to perform as a leader. I think the more we do that, the better leaders we become, right? So I think it's definitely more pragmatic, and it makes sense. It's common sense to be able to do that, than finding it paradoxical or oxymoronic, right?
Absolutely. The other thing, what I wanted to also mention there is, as leaders, I think there should be a lot of openness for us to learn from the smartest person in the room, right? And that is not easy, and that comes with experience, with a lot of leadership maturity. Like, you don't want to be at a place where you are the smartest person in the room, then boss, you're in the wrong room, right?
Yeah.
So I think inculcating those nuances into your leadership style helps you to become a better leader, and it automatically develops trust.
Absolutely, and it also comes from a space of confidence, Vani, right? Because if you're not very confident about yourself, you will not be comfortable leading a team of people who are smarter than you,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
As a leader, we need to be comfortable and confident, and feel safe about ourselves first. I think once we are in that space, we're able to create that environment where we can bring in people smarter than us, specialists,
Absolutely.
who
Mhm.
can actually add more value than we can. Our goal is to kind of bring that kind of talent together and create that symphony.
Absolutely. And how you can actually build the organization's vision, and that leads to the growth of the company. And it's not only about you; it's about the your army that you're taking together.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I believe for us to be successful, it is important to get to a place where the team is able to operate independently. And as leader, I find myself successful when I am redundant in that space. So that is the point when I feel I'm probably ready for the next level. So I think from that perspective, Vani, what do we do as a leader to evolve our own maturity and capability and effectiveness as a leader? I'm sure that you know we uh, we spend a lot of time and energy and bandwidth to support our team developing leaders, but what about ourselves? What self-care means in our roles as leaders? Your thoughts?
Sure, sure. This is a very wonderful. I mean, this is a wonderful aspect to leadership, right? This is an ongoing journey. Like, as a leader, one has to be a lifelong student, right? You are doing learning daily something or the other, and this is like hitting the gym daily to see those results that you want to see in your body. Uh, but it's also not only about acquiring the skills, right? But it is about cultivating the right attitude, because leadership is right attitude, and building those strong relationships with people, constantly becoming the better version of yourself, is what is required. And how do you achieve it? I think growth mindset is very important and essential for anyone who want to be that in that 0.5 percent league that you call, right? You want to be this top leadership area. You want to be a lifelong learner, and you need to be, I think one has to be ready to unlearn, relearn, and learn, because that is something which is very important today. And the with the advancements of technology, with the advancements of what is happening around the world in terms of business space and competition and everything, we can't be in a position where we are at a comfort zone. Your comfort zone should become your enemy, I think, for any leader. That's what
Absolutely.
I would say. And then, investing in relationship, which we often miss out as leaders. We want to be like extremely busy in managing our day-to-day lives, in terms of keeping the business as usual stuff going, keeping the lights on, and not giving a lot of importance to building those key relationship at work. Be it with the mentors that you have at work, or it could be your coach and your peer group with whom, from whom you learn. I would always say that, do not consider a person uh, knowledgeable than you as your threat. Try to embrace the skills and the strengths from the other person and learn from them, and that's one of the strategies to be a lifelong learner. And the most undervalued thing that all of us, kind of take it for granted is leading by example, right? So how am I setting an example to my team, or the people who get motivated by me in terms of work ethic? Because today in the organization or in your team, people hardly believe what you say, but they believe what you do. Your action speaks louder than words, and that is something that people are constantly looking out for, and they inspire you, because inspiration can never be forced. The minute you force your inspiration, I think inspiration gets diluted fully.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that is something which I would say is key. And then investing in your own self improvement, right, in terms of upskilling yourself, like in technology, reading a lot of leadership books, going through this case studies, and participating in events like the technology events, where you're contributing your values, and then learning from the partner ecosystem that you have, actually gives you that edge where you're always up in the game and you know what is happening. And I think in the previous, when we were talking about previously, you mentioned about confidence. I think that confidence comes from how you update yourself and how you keep yourself updated in the latest things that's happening in technology, or in terms of how are you dealing a very tough people situation, right? Those gives you an edge to your development pipeline as a leader.
Wonderful. No, I completely agree with you. I think uh, developing skills and competence um, definitely contributes to being more and more confident. While at the same time, like you said, it's also about attitude towards ourselves. Do we feel safe with ourselves? I think is a crucial question that we need to keep asking ourselves. And if the answer is not a resounding yes, it's very important to work on it. Mostly because if we don't feel safe with ourselves, we feel threatened, like you said, when there are smarter people in the room. We feel threatened to expose our vulnerabilities. We won't be expressing ourselves wholly as
Absolutely.
real. I think these are issues that will break trust. And when the trust is broken, you mentioned about trust earlier, and when the trust is broken, it's very hard to create um, an environment of collaboration and innovation, right? So I think everything is like a stack of cards, and it's very important to hold it together with our own attitude towards learning and growth as leaders. Awesome. So let's get a little bit more specific, Vani, here, right? And we talked about leadership in general and developing leaders and developing ourselves. Women in tech leadership, and this is something that I've been intrigued about, and in my observation, it's probably anyone's observation, is that there is not as many women in tech leadership as probably desired. And it is changing. I think there is a lot of women engineers and women tech leaders coming up, very competent and successful women entrepreneurs in tech. uh, but it's still way less than compared to the male leadership. It's way less. I want to hear from you what your views are with respect to what's holding back, if there is anything. And let's talk about specifically, okay, for women who have surpassed a certain stage, right? And maybe is there a glass ceiling? Is it more internal struggle? What it is that's coming in the way from your perspective?
Definitely, like as you said, things are changing right now, and I totally agree with you that things are changing right now. It's not like those old days where women had to give up their work because of family, right? So now many companies are actually offering a lot of flexible, work timings and support to the caregivers in the family, and so that it's easy for people to manage, or I would say it's not even balancing, but it's integrating your work and home. That's something which is very common today. And with that being said, there are a lot of equal job opportunities that is being offered for growth in various organizations today. In my own experience, I can tell you, like, I have been very lucky to have a great support system at home that really allowed me to focus a lot on career, but that is not the case with everyone, right? So for me, it's all about what you truly want as a professional, right? You can actually really have it all if you plan and prioritize things well. This is something which I always believed, and I would really recommend and encourage us as women to believe that first, that you can always have it all if you set priorities, if you delegate tasks effectively, both at home and work. And at the same time, one can't do all the work by themselves, because at times as women we want to be that perfectionist in everything, especially when it comes to home, like managing kids, managing your family, taking care of the household stuff. And this is something which I learned over the period of time, that the homeworks can still be delegated to people, right? It's all about managing your energy and not just time.
Hmm.
I think that is the crux of my 20 years of learning, in managing my professional and personal journey, if I have to say. But sometimes as women, we might hold us back with the thoughts like, can I do this? Or I don't think I will be able to manage this. Or do I even fit in this role? These are the questions that always hold us back. And it can create a situation in your mind where you feel that you're not good enough. We have to overcome these fears. No two ways about it. It is not
Very well
about
said.
what society is saying, it's not about what someone else is saying, but it's about what you are saying to yourself, right? And we can
Yeah.
do this by setting a vision for ourselves, right? Like planning our careers, be it building those strong relationships at work, networking, finding mentors, celebrating our own accomplishments. Like we as women, we kind of we don't celebrate our accomplishments very often, right? And nobody is stopping us to celebrate that, right? I think a lot of things that we aren't doing today are because of our own self beliefs, that is stopping us to do. And I think we need to break that barrier and come out and see the world that is really beautiful outside, be it your professional life or personal life or what it is.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Absolutely, Vani. It's partly conditioning, I think. I think breaking out of that conditioning, social conditioning, is crucial, and certainly self belief and self talk will help. Um, I think if and when women believe in themselves, if not more, at least as much as others believe in them, I think there will be a strong uh, psychological position for them to push through, push forward. And you also mentioned about the support system. It's very
Mhm.
important that not just the women but also the support system, the men in their lives, also understand and appreciate that uh, it's a partnership, right? And it's important that we as men uh, start taking our role as parent or householder seriously and contribute. if we are not able to contribute, we need to appreciate that the women also may not be able to contribute, because they have equal uh, stake both at work and at home. So we
Absolutely.
make decisions together, make compromises together, and be conscious about them, right? And one more thing I also want to share is, along with having that self talk and be able to prioritize and plan, um, there are two things I would like to add, if I may, is setting boundaries, um, for ourselves and for others, right? That we don't want to cross, and we don't want others to cross through, is important. And be able to say no to things. I think it's not just for women. I think it's more
For everyone.
uh,
Mhm.
a gender neutral thing to learn to say no, uh, more. I think that will help us prioritize ruthlessly and be able to keep our bearings right, and be able to juggle many things at a time, right?
Yeah, so you brought up a very good point on aligning with your life partners on what you want to do, right? I think there the crucial part is like how are you communicating your aspirations to your life partner? And that relationship building actually starts at home. Most often we are so hesitant to even communicate what we want to do. I think that that's something we need to come out of that fear, break that barrier, and like the art of saying no. What you said, it's not only essential at work life, but at also and it also in personal life, right? At times when you really want to, take up some responsibility for yourself, how do you actually involve people, like delegating stuff at home and building that responsibility and accountability in the family, like with your kids also. I think it's very essential. Like I said, you can't end up doing everything by yourself where you're completely drained and you hit the burnout stage, right? So that's
Yeah.
very crucial actually at home as well, without even discussing and share and discussing your vision and plan with either your life partner or the boss whom you're working with in office. Most of the times we go into a very assumption and presumption mode, thinking like, oh, this anyways this person is going to say not going to say okay to it, or this person is not going to cooperate with me on things, or I'm not going to get this opportunity. So it's more of, like you said, conditioning. I think it's 80% conditioning. With my experience,
Yeah.
whatever I have seen, like people quit workforce, and if you even look at the data, with which is published on women quitting workforce at certain age, at a certain age group or at certain career level, you would see like the mid to senior level, there's 60 to 70% of women quitting workforce because of various reasons. Number one, they think they will not be able to handle the work pressure. Number two, they think they're not ready for the leadership roles. And number three, of course, with family constraints and everything, because they were not able to communicate or seek that support from the people in the family.
Right, right. And you see, one interesting thing that I noticed, we talked about being able to delegate stuff at home
Hmm.
also, right? uh, I have a very interesting observation, right? In our generation, perhaps, um, you know women delegate stuff at home. It kind of implicitly means that women lead, right? They have the responsibility to lead. But what I've also observed, Vani, more younger Gen Y and Gen Z and beyond, younger couples, it's beautiful to see that they co-create their life.
Absolutely.
They co-own things. Nobody has to delegate,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because equal responsibilities are taken, and they co-create the life together. I think that's very, very heartening to see that change happening in more younger couples recently. But it's something that we can perhaps learn from them, I guess, right? I don't know if it's too late. I don't think any time is too late, but it's a lesson that for us to learn from the younger couples, from my observation, right?
Actually,
What
that's
do you
that's
think about that?
yeah, no, that's a great observation that you brought in, and we could learn a lot from youngsters and vice versa, of course, with this. And I think they come with a mindset of having equal stakes even in relationship, like personal relationships,
Right.
right? And it's and the dependency that they create on themselves. They are Nobody has to convince each other that, hey, I need to go to work,
Right.
versus my generation where you, before your, even well before your marriage, you need to have your parent-in-laws or your
Have the talk.
spouse exactly agree that you're going to work after your marriage.
Yeah.
So world has
Yeah.
changed drastically, to be honest. And you were
Right.
in a permission seeking mode, like
Yeah.
20 years ago, and
Yeah.
today everything has changed, right? It becomes
You
essential.
neither need permission nor need to seek forgiveness, I
Exactly,
think.
exactly. So I think the world is changing, and we can definitely learn a lot from the youngsters. They adaptable, and they want to live in the moment, and they understand if the other partner is busy or at
Right.
work. So
Right.
that's a really good
Yeah.
point.
And one more thing
Mhm,
that resonated deeply with me when you said we need to talk about our aspirations,
mhm,
professional aspirations at home, to
mhm,
the partner, to the in-laws, or whoever the stakeholders are at home. Um, having that conversation, it might be difficult, or sometimes it's good, but it may not have the impact that we hope it will.
mhm.
What I have also observed, Vani, and this is coming from my personal experience, which I encourage at my home as well, is start talking about your work day. Just talk about what you do with your partner, with your parents or in-laws. Let
Mhm.
them know what you do at work. People think that talking about work is like boasting, or it's like kind of blowing out trumpet or whatever. But I think having people, when people know the kind of work you do and the kind of impact you create every day, it doesn't have to be kind of highlighting all the good things alone. Just talk about your frustrations, your experiences at work, interactions, or projects or whatever, right? Just spend 5-10 minutes, talk about the day at work. I think it makes a huge difference in even older generation understanding that, hey, this person, uh, man or woman, they have a life, and they are making impact outside, and it basically is creating, consuming their mental bandwidth, and it is a substantial part of their lives. I think that understanding only comes from them realizing that that life is real. It's not some black box that we vanish into and then come back from, right? So I think creating that awareness about that life goes a long way, and then perhaps talking about aspirations and things that may appear controversial, it feels a lot smoother. Vani, that's my experience.
No, totally, totally. And this very much, reminds me of the situation we all were in during COVID, right? When the COVID hit. N- It was definitely not an escape game for anybody, like especially the couple who worked together, I mean, from the same house.
Right.
And that actually brought a lot of sense of understanding in everybody in the family. Like your kids would know that mama is on a conference call, and they would be well
Right.
mannered. They would, I think this is not only in my house, but everyone could echo on this thought where people really took both the partners jobs very seriously, and they understood the magnitude of the responsibility that they are carrying on their shoulders along with the work. And a lot of learning that I had with my colleagues and the people whom I mentor, understanding that there is a lot of sense of understanding between partners and family members, especially after that COVID era when people were put to
Because
work
they see
together.
you work,
Yeah,
right?
they see you work, and we were talking about delegation, right? Going back to that point, delegation is not about, hey, I say you do. It's about, this is something which I want you to help me with, so that I can be more productive. So I'm talking about
Right.
that. It's not only about, you uh, being in that authoritative position, but it's also about you seeking help, raising your hand and saying like, I need your help now, which women often don't do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think asking for help is a all new, altogether new, separate skill set that we all need to develop.
Absolutely.
Uh, yeah, yeah, wonderful. I think it's very very interesting. How you look at women in tech and leadership and the challenges both from home and at work. let's go more specific right now, Vani. Right? We talked about leadership and then women in leadership, but let's talk about women in IT. Well, not necessarily women in IT, but IT leadership in general.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, I remember those experiences fondly, and uh, I find, I have the, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I have this privilege of having worked in almost all organizations within a company, right? The operations, GTM, administration, IT, HR. So I think, and finance. So it gives me a perspective. And one thing that I've noticed uh, throughout my experience, every other team or function within organizations, they operate independently. Every company has its own culture, right?
Hmm.
And the culture kind of percolates in all these organizations, except IT teams seem to have their own culture. Every company's IT team seem to be working very similar. The culture, the priorities, their ways of thinking and working seems um, very very similar. It seems like a subculture within the organization, but they seem to be the same regardless of industry, regardless of organizations or companies. I think part of it is coming from um, the vision or goal for an IT organization or a CIO seem to be very similar in all the organizations, and maybe that's where it's coming from. But what are your thoughts on having, creating the subculture within IT and how that fits into a larger organizational culture?
Yeah, that's a very great thought process on the culture in itself, right? Like over my 2 decades of work experience in IT organizations, what I've seen is like I've seen companies really strive for culture that is open, that is people centric and focused on win-win solutions. We've very widely believe in an enterprise mindset where we not only think about IT as a department, but how do we contribute to the whole organization to be successful, where everyone is working together, and then the growth becomes a shared journey. And very highly these organizations also believe in learning from the mistakes and embracing inclusivity and everything. And this is where IT also plays a vital role. So from a leadership standpoint, what stands key for an IT organization, like you said, the CIO mindset or the CTO mindset is the values or the goals is not only about the leadership at the top, right? This is what I have seen, and I can really talk about a lot of success stories from the organizations that I worked for and I'm working currently, right? The vision and the mission need to be embraced by everybody. This is what is consciously or intentionally uh, brought in the IT organization culture, right? So it's at the all level. In fact, I've personally made fostering workplace happiness and embracing the company culture and acting like an ambassador of the organization in my own development plan. And I've also made sure that it is translated to the team that is below me, because it doesn't make a lot of sense if only your your company values and your vision and mission statement is put only on the walls and the leaders just talk about it, but it's also about how do we demonstrate, right? So as I always say, it starts with you, and that is what we time and again demonstrate in the IT organization. And we want to own the mission and the value of the organization into our own personal development plan. And the best, I can say, the best cultures that I've experienced have had a very profound experience on my entire professional journey and what I am today, right? And to be honest, a great culture is not built just by magic. There's no magic happening. We talk about a great culture in this organization. It's all about people over there and how are they embracing. Like we spoke about vulnerability before. Am I comfortable enough in raising my hand and saying, like, I don't know this. Can someone help me understand? Right? And it's all about, they
Right.
say, right? It's all about how your employee feel the Sunday night and look forward to the week, right? And how do they look, how do they see the Friday evening once they complete all their accomplishments and get back? So it's not only specific to IT organization. Of course, the subculture that you're talking about, I can resonate very well, where there is a lot of nuances like adaptability, change, and we want to also include a lot of fun at work and stuff like that. But the cornerstone very much is, how do you actually embrace the company culture, not only from the leadership at the top, it is also how do you pass on that communication to the people below you, and how everyone sees this value and goal as their own. That's when you create that culture which makes it successful for everyone to grow together as an organization.
Right, right. Absolutely makes sense. I think aligning uh, the subculture with the organization's culture, the broad company's culture, is crucial. Um, I also think that uh, let's look at companies at different stages, right? Um, there is a very early stage startup. Generally, there is no dedicated IT organization. Then there is a post product market fit scaling stage or growth stage startup. Again, there is probably a semblance of IT organization, still not mature. But the moment it kind of gets really large, 300, 500 plus employee company, and the revenue goes beyond 100 million or so, then IT organization emerges. There is a CIO. Very likely, a company is looking at a potential IPO. There is a need for more structured information security. There is a more structured need for more structured systems of record, transaction processing systems. So all these things become more imperative over time. And now, um, suddenly there is one organization, the CIO's organization, because the CIOs have experience doing this. There is these are well laid out, um, work streams, so to speak, and then processes and systems that they've probably done in multiple places. But then the organization itself is kind of it's in its teenage,
Mm,
right? As they are scaling and as they are kind of growing really fast. But there is this IT organization has that comes from maturity, because that's how the IT organization, the CIOs have worked.
mhm,
Now there are two ways to look at it. One, what can the rest of the company learn from IT when it comes to developing that maturity, whether it is from process orientation, documentation, kind of having that SLAs, and having all those checks and balances on one side. And what can the CIO or the IT organization also can learn from the rest of the company, which is still kind of having teething problems and growth issues, but have the drive and energy to kind of continue doing what they're doing. I think there is an opportunity for mutual learning here, right?
absolutely. So I just want us to pause and think about the COVID outbreak, right? And definitely nobody can forget the situation. So COVID outbreak really showed the power of IT. So think about it, right?
Yeah.
Things that would have been, much worse. IT really helped us to adapt and manage situation in these crazy times. So everyone, irrespective of who we are talking about, right? A person who is extremely educated to a person who is still learning things, actually was introduced to the value additions that IT could bring in. So having said that, what are those key things that other organizations or other departments can really learn from IT is adaptability, I think. Adaptability is key. IT has been super flexible in developing solutions, in making things easy for business. All the business complexities are translating into easy solutions today. Today, if you see, IT organizations are not looked at order takers for business, right? Today, IT organizations have gained their own respect, and they are, looked up as order shapers for business, where a lot of collaboration happens, like you said, co-creation happen in terms of how can we make it better for the business, right? How can an IT solution derive business results in a very simplest form? And think about managing change and ambiguity, right? And again, I would like to talk about the pandemic. The pandemic was full of unknowns, right? But IT really helped us to navigate the situations, be it in terms of bringing in new technologies, connecting people remotely, like whichever village, whichever place people were into, we were able to at least see our loved ones, right? And in terms of healthcare, of or whatever business it is, we were in a position to run the businesses virtually as much as possible, which was managing people's livelihood. Along with that, data. I know today everyone is talking about data. Data is king. Organizations are coming very heavily on how can we make effective use of data, and government is also coming up with so many aspects of digital India and stuff like that. So how is that happening? It's all happening with the power of IT. So IT is an area where global collaboration can happen. There could be a lot of communication and transparency because of the tools and technology that IT is bringing in. Any latest and greatest information you want to see, it is all you can just get it in a click of a button. How can you make it happen? It's through IT. But of course, we working in an IT organization and being those custodians of IT also have to learn a lot from the other departments. Like I would say, like pause from the ever running change, right? And being adaptable and being ready for things that is not even evolved. So we always want to be fast in the game, but how can we pause and be very methodical and look at what we can learn from the legacy aspects of it. That is something which we can learn from the other departments as well. And we're talking about the age of AI, and we are making a lot of advancements in that field. But some things that we could see is like the accuracy of what we want to develop, and how do we want to invest time in looking at those aspects where we can see what are the other source of truth that we can derive, that we can learn from the other departments, and giving those that human aspects. Because take it human resource management or other fields where a lot of automation and stuff like that has come today, which might not which should not be diluting the effectiveness that a human connection can bring in. I think we need to look at those nuances while we are also gearing up and making these advancements in the IT and the technology world.
Right, right. No, makes absolute sense, Vani, right? And also, um, to your point, the pandemic actually showed the world that IT organizations can have impact. Like most of the IT's impact has been invisible.
True.
And we talk about invisible IT. It shouldn't really, uh, you should really feel that we are kind of part of your life, work life, right? But then, you know uh, in the pandemic, when the IT organization stepped up and created a completely alternative universe
Hmm.
for a day in the life for every employee in the organization, I think that was phenomenal. And that adaptability and rising up to the occasion to kind of find solutions for people to collaborate, be still able to have that information security intact. It's phenomenal, the kind of, and there's a lot of learning we should have from that. Um, and and one more thing is, you also much earlier in the conversation talked about um, every employee within the IT organization being aware and feeling connected with what we're trying to do. I think with the vision and with the sense of purpose.
Hmm.
I want to bring it up again because that also will impact um, quality, and it will impact the culture. And this is something I feel IT can learn or can adapt from the other functions, where um, as hierarchically as we go down the ladder, um, I think it becomes more and more transactional. And this is my observation from IT, from observing and having been in IT organizations.
Hmm.
I think it is very important that, yes, transaction, it has to be transactional. Of course, there needs to be the legwork that needs to happen, but it's also important that every individual contributor, every analyst, every support analyst, every business analyst, every project manager needs to know the meaning of the work they're doing, in a way that they can understand how it's impacting the business, and perhaps how it's impacting the world. um, that when they have that awareness, I think it becomes a whole different environment for them to work in. But my observation is it doesn't really happen a lot. Some leaders do take the effort to do that, but mostly I find it to be more transactional than purpose driven. What's your take on it, Vani?
Yeah, see, I totally appreciate your observation, and that is what happens in most of the places. If as a leader, if you're not intentional about the people that work with you, I don't even want to call it as people who work for you, but I would say people who work with you in your team, right? When you say this, you're considering the people who are working in your team as your peers and as the people who are
Colleagues, yeah.
contributing to the organization's success. So while you have these system and structures, that is very crucial. I would say like true leadership goes beyond all of that, right? And here there is a lot of investment that you have to make. These are all intangible investment that you make in building that relationship with your people. And most of the times, this is not part of your KRA at all, right?
Right.
You can't really go back and ask anyone for the investment that you've made, like for the return on investment that you're going to get, right? So in my
Right.
experience, what I've seen is relationship building actually becomes a cornerstone for creating this kind of effective relationship with the team that works for you. Like I said, it takes time, it takes energy, but the return on investment that you get is immeasurable. So what does it
Mm.
mean for people who work in the team, right? So it's like it's valuing your team members, if, contributions beyond just a KPI is something that
Mm.
that really matters, right? It's the genuine appreciation that you want to give to somebody. Like I always say this to the people, to the people who are in my leadership team, in my leadership team, that don't always look for someone, to point out somebody's mistake. See, like how you
Mm.
can genuinely appreciate someone, and because leadership, like I was telling you the other day as well, leadership is also like parenting. Like be there for your team, guide them, inspire them, no matter what your BAU looks like, right? Your business
Mm.
as usual activities, your project expectations, everything will be there as part of your life. But remember, you are acting as an inspiration for someone who wants to bring their whole self to work.
Yeah.
Yes, so to be a leader who consistently uplift others, you need to uh, constantly work on yourself as well. Like you said, most often this is missed in many organizations or many teams, and I'll tell you why. Because as leaders, we are so full with our own responsibilities, and we are struggling to bring our better self to work, and that's the bitter truth. Because you can't pour
Mm.
from an empty cup, can you? You can't.
Right.
You need to really have that full on energy, you need to have that full on drive to pass that to someone else. And
Mm.
some things that you can do, because see, the root cause is not that leaders do not want to do it, but they do not have that energy and zeal and passion to do it, because they don't know where to get that from. And the
Mm.
success mantra lies here, like have practice gratitude every day, express thankfulness for every simple thing that you have in your life, right? So you automatically develop a lot of energy by doing it. Mindfulness, like staying present and forgive. You like we can't give up on our kids no matter what, can we? So that's a similar
Right.
situation at work as well, like forgiveness, and then selflessness. Like how many times we put somebody else's request before ours, our own, right? Like being very
Mm.
empathetic. So when we practice these things, automatically the aura that one carry as a leader, becomes so powerful, which you can feel, and the others, around you can also be inspired with.
So we'll switch gears, Bunny, and um, see, I've been on both sides of the table, right? I've been on the worked in the IT organization. I've been a consumer and customer of IT organizations, both internal and external. See, one thing that I have observed from the internal customers of IT organization uh, is they are scared. They dread when IT brings up something new. Right? IT is always viewed as bringer of trouble, bringer of change. Uh, oh no, things are going to change for me. My day in the life is going to take a 180-degree turn. All of that, but eventually they realize it's for their good. But it's also important that while as IT leaders and IT organizations bring about those increase in productivity or better visibility, business visibility, or better security of information, all these are very important goals. But how do we manage that change as we are impacting so many stakeholders? There is an AP clerk who is trying to process invoices. There is a salesperson who is trying to close deals. Their day in the life will change when we put in a new payment processing system or a CRM system, or even introduce new features. So how do we make it subtle? How do we manage this change?
So, PJ, this is a very interesting topic and close to my heart kind of topic to talk about, right? Because change management and project management is something that should go hand in hand, and I very well resonate to the aspects, the assumptions, or the perception that the business teams have an IT, right? IT always brings trouble, and it's an IT initiative, it's not mine, so how do I consider it as mine? And especially the question that anyone would have being on the other side as an end user is like, what is in it for me? And as an IT organization or as a project organization, are we in a position to communicate the tangible business value to them? And are we in a position to communicate what is in it for each one of them in each department? Like you said, an accounts receivable clerk, an accounts payable person, manager, they don't know what is in it for them. And I'll tell you what happens in at least what I've seen in my experience, driving these larger transformation. What I've seen this is like the project methodologies that you have, the tools and everything are just piece of the puzzle to the whole program, right? The real question is how are we creating the tangible value to the business? And here is where the magic happens by marrying your project management and change management principles, because project management is all about how are you deploying a solution to a business problem, but change management is something beyond that, like sustainability and the people side of it. How are people adopting to the change that you brought in? Is everyone comfortable in adopting to the change? Are they embracing it? Are they liking it? Or is anyone who is not even using the technology that you just introduced? So if we are not marrying these two principles or these two methodologies, that is where you hit a roadblock at a later point in time where there are a lot of dissatisfaction, and the question arises where this is an IT problem, this is not mine. And business always comes with a question in mind on what is my return on investment if we are not proactively measuring what is the return on investment, right? So it's about ensuring how the sustainability and adoption work when you're introducing change management into your project management. And how do you really make that magic happens when it comes to your day-to-day communication to the people who are the people who are getting impacted by this change, right? Communicating this change effectively, like tailoring the messages that resonates to the each individual that is impacted, so provide him or her the information that is relevant only to their part of work, right? And this actually, when you do this, this kind of builds the readiness for them to ease the transition. They're going to be ready waiting as to what part of their work is getting changed versus what is happening in the entire world. Maybe they're not interested to know all that, and that is not the scope of work as well, right? And embracing this ambiguity, like, because change is rarely linear, right? So being comfortable with something which is something unknown and adapting to that in a long way becomes very crucial. So the other thing which is crucial and most important is partnering with the stakeholders like IT management or project management team members or IT leaders, partnering with the stakeholders, the business counterparts, and really discussing on regular basis, like, hey, what are the key challenges that you're going through in your department, and how can IT enable in translating those into key business values? I think those kind of conversations really make it more relevant, and in terms of helping the business, and in terms of helping the business and providing those business results to them. And that's why I was also I was talking before, like I said, IT organizations were considered as order takers, where business comes up and says, hey, this is what it is, you do this for me. But today we are in a phase where IT organizations are more like an enabler, like an order shaper, where they say, this is the solution that would work better for you, and here is the change that we want to bring in. So focusing on that human side of change management makes it all the difference in terms of impacting the day in life of a person, be it a clerk who's working in an accounts department, or be it a person who is leading the organization from a finance, like a CFO in the organization.
Absolutely. And one more thing I also would like to add to that, Vani, is um, you beautifully mentioned project management and management need to go together. And practically, in almost all of the projects that I have seen, particularly large ones where change management is even included as a discipline, most of the smaller projects, they don't appear,
Yeah.
right? They kick in much later, usually during the testing phase, is when the change management comes in. And it is more perceived as a, hey, as a change manager, I'm going to train you with the new UI and new features. I'll get you ready and all of that. I think change managers should come in from day one, when it is being discussed, when the project charter is being developed, when stakeholders are being defined, and when so everybody needs to understand and appreciate and accept the why of the project, um, and then the what and the how can come later. And when we go to the people who are impacted by the project, when the project is almost done, it is all built out, it just feels like they have not been included, and it's being forced upon them, I think. And that's a mistake that has happened a lot in a lot of my projects in the past. Uh, and and it's from a very uh, what to say, tough learning experience, learning from experience, right? That it is important for the change manager to kind of be a partner of the project manager from day one, talk about change, the coming upcoming change, and carry everybody together, instead of just coming in the end and kind of masquerading as just a trainer of the change.
Absolutely. I think you're spot on in saying that. And this has been a lesson learned for most of the larger transformations that major IT companies have taken. And I can tell you, like, introducing change as part of your project management plan should, like as you very rightly said, it should start at the inception stage itself, and this should be a top down approach. I think it should be driven right from the sponsor. So without
Right.
the support from the sponsor, I don't think the change management as a function also can really be very effective. Your sponsor plays a very critical role in terms of introducing this whole function into the organization. And today I can name of a lot of companies who are intentionally building their change management practice within their organization, just because they
Right.
understand the value addition that change management function is bringing in terms of driving this change. And like you said, the key messages for everybody, and answering the why of this. Because from an IT standpoint, as an IT program manager or IT program leader, my focus is very much towards the solution alone. And in a way, I kind of miss out on how this change is going to embrace by people.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more thing is also being sensitive to the actual impact of the project on the employee base, right? not just about the scale of the project. Sometimes, it doesn't have to be always large digital transformation projects that require or that can deserve change management
Mhm.
as a discipline. It can
Absolutely.
be a very simple small change from a IT solution point of view. A simple change in the, I don't know, expense report workflow. I'm just making it up, right? it,
Sure.
it could appear as a very small project, maybe a 2 week project, but imagine it will impact every single employee of the organization, right? And the impact is huge. And it is important that the impact of the change on the employees is also assessed, along with the size and complexity of the solution itself. And then it has to be worked on the merit of the size of the impact, as opposed to how small or big the change itself is, right?
Yeah, that's a brilliant point, and this goes with decisions or changes like return to office policy, right, which is impacting every
Absolutely.
employee. So, how are you introducing that change, and what are the key messages you wanted to bring to the table who are getting impacted by this change, right? It actually matters a lot. It just can't be like one email on a Friday saying like everyone needs to get back to work on Monday, kind of thing,
Right,
right?
right. No, absolutely, absolutely. Wonderful. This thought process also, Vani, I think comes from how IT leaders view their role as. And you mentioned, right, IT is no longer order takers, they're order shapers. And it's also, I think, one of the ways to view, uh, for IT leaders to view themselves is being the custodian of employee experience in general, right? It's not just being custodian of the information, data, security, transaction processing systems, reporting systems. These are the big blocks, but there is also this invisible portion of impacting a day in the life of the employee. It doesn't, almost any kind of organization, employees work with their laptops, either in the office or at home. They have to deal with technology. I think IT plays a crucial role in enabling employee engagement, employee retention, and the overall employee experience. So I think, looking at it from that perspective also can give more appreciation for these changes and impact, and all these things that we talked about. No.
Absolutely. I think on that note, right, the key aspect that one has to consider being in an IT department, be it's not only about what the CIO is doing, right, or your IT head is doing. It's about the entire department partnering with various teams. When we talk about improving employee experience, or when we talk about enhancing employee experience, it's not only IT, right? It's about everybody, like your HR department and that the individual's own work department. So it's like
Right.
collaborating with other departments as well in ensuring that IT acts as an enabling pillar on how can I make things easy for you. So that is something
Yeah.
which is key, and having those regular business cadences in terms of understanding what can IT bring to the table, and how can they make things easy for others, and in terms of removing the roadblocks that other department has, and how can we, because today everyone is embracing digitization, right? So how can we partner with different departments and in creating those fancy dashboards for them, which would be very helpful for them to look at. Oh, so here is my onboarding pipeline. Here are the people who are joining next week. Like, how can I, greet those people, and how can I make sure that the onboarding experience become special right from the day they are entering into the organization. So those kind of things can be done from an IT perspective, and IT means like proactive, being
Mm.
pragmatic, and being precise in what they do, and being present uh, in making things available. So you just can't um, be at the comfort zone of it, saying like things will happen, okay, I'm in the BAU department, or someone who's fixing the laptop can't just go and say like, I'm someone who is like a subsidiary team in the IT and I don't play a big part. I think everyone should
Mm.
come with a mission, saying that I am adding value to the end customer, and the end customer could be anybody, like an employee or the person who is really getting benefited of the work that the entire organization is doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think when everybody truly believes that they're making somebody's life better,
Mm,
uh, it's a huge motivation, right, for them.
absolutely.
And it's also, in a way, um, see, important to know that, generally, my observation again is, we in IT organization and IT leaders, we take a very pragmatic approach.
Mhm.
We say, hey, let's make it work, then
Mm,
let's make it better, right? Because we know that technology is very fluid, it keeps changing, it keeps evolving, and we can't really commit to one way of doing things for a long term. Particularly the tenure of technology, or the useful life, shelf life of technology, is only coming down, it's not
absolutely.
increasing.
Hmm.
So we it's practical that we don't aim for perfection. I mean, that's perfection is a mirage anyway. We don't aim for, top quality, but how do we balance that viewpoint of, hey, let's not try to get it super polished and refined, let's get it work and make it better. That's one way of thinking. And then also on the other side, how do we ensure craftsmanship in what we do? How do we ensure quality in what we do? I think they are two different forces pulling in different directions. But how do you as a leader balance that?
See, to me, perfection versus progress, right? It's a very very interesting concept to debate about, for sure. So I truly admire the pursuit of perfection, right? It shows dedication, high standards, in achieving something. But the true excellence lies in making progress, right? Progress is also about consistency. We talk about doing something consistently to become better. So that is where progress comes into picture, where you're moving forward every day. That shows you're active, you're not dead. So that is, progress for me. And progress also becomes, making progress in the quality of work becomes even more powerful, because it gives you an opportunity to learn from mistakes, right? You're not striving for perfection and waiting there, but you're also uh, making progress or working daily, embracing the mistakes, and you're working as a stepping stone when you do that. So you learn, you adjust, you
Right.
move forward and do stuff. And progress also helps us, or helps me, to get the diverse perspective. It's not only because perfection limits only to me, because I think, oh, I'm the one who can really make it in a perfect way. But when I think about making progress, it's about diverse perspectives, where I'm embracing other people's viewpoints, where I'm including other people's approaches, thought process, and stuff like that. And
Feels more
this,
inclusive, no?
which is more inclusive. Absolutely, this is more inclusive. It's not you thinking only about, hey, I'm not going to delegate this to somebody because I fear that person is going to not going to meet my expectation of perfection. So that is
Right.
gone. And in a way, it also, as a leader, it helps you to delegate and collaborate, right? So progress is never a solo act, if you can
Right.
relate that, right?
Perfection can be, or
Perfection
pursuit for
can be, or
perfection can.
pursued as a solo act. So
Yeah.
this is something which I've, learned and evolved. uh, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have just gone ahead and said like, perfectionist, that's it, is perfectionism is my mantra. But
Hmm.
as I evolve as a leader, and I have to be very honest enough to say that, it's, hang on, it's not about perfection. It's about progress that you make on daily basis. This allows you, or gives you an opportunity to learn from your mistakes, that allows you to bring in the diverse perspective to the table. And it also helps you in delegating and collaborating with people. And it reminds me that, you're not the only one who's doing this. You need to be collaborative in whatever you do. So while you're striving for perfection, choosing to focus on making progress actually is the true excellence that could bring as a leader. And we also touch base on the quality, the craftsmanship, right? So it always has been a guiding principle throughout my leadership journey, that it's about developing and equipping that knowledge and skill that is needed within my team. And I am a very I'm very passionate about teaching. And if not this profession, I would have been a professor or lecturer. So that I'm so passionate about teaching, and it comes very naturally for me to impart those skills and knowledge that is required for people who work with me to to make that happen, or to give it to them. That value system, creating that value system, foster that culture of learning and excellence, and stuff like that. So with that said, I think embracing quality in terms of your bringing that as a guiding principle for your leadership, along with making progress, I think gets you to a place where you are you feel accomplished, if not uh, being a perfectionist in whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah, you said it beautifully, Vani. Perfectionism is a solo act, and progress is more inclusive, and it's a collective teamwork. One thing I would like to add to that is, see, when we strive for perfection, it just feels like there is no closure, right? It's always unfinished, because
True.
perfection is can never be attained, right? When we are going for progress, there is always this small milestones, a sense of completion, and sense of closure, that we can celebrate small milestones along the way. I think that also gives us a lot of energy and motivation, enthusiasm to keep moving, pressing forward, as opposed to constant work in progress, uh, state of mind where we don't see an end in sight at all, as we strive for perfection. I think that's psychologically also is a lot of benefit in going after progress than perfection.
Absolutely, it makes you moving. It doesn't put you at a place where you're just stuck.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Wonderful. I think fantastic conversation so far, Vani. I think now uh, is probably a good time to bring this to a landing. We talked about leadership, developing leaders, developing ourselves. We talked about IT. What can other functions learn from IT organizations? Nuances of IT leadership, and project and change management, perfection and progress, and all of that. But one thing that stuck with me, and if I want the audience to take away one thing from the whole conversation, is obviously, you know, uh, women in tech leadership, and what um, mindset we want the women to approach, and men who support the women, right, both at work and at home, to approach. Can you maybe share your you know um, parting views, so to speak, with the audience on what you want them to remember, take away from this conversation around that, and if there is anything else that you would like to share also, please, I would like to invite you to do that.
Sure, it's been a pleasure talking through my experiences, and of course, your experience that resonates very well with the project management concepts and people development and leadership, especially in IT. I think it was a very, very relatable conversation. So I can tell you that it all starts with you and your own drive, right? So and the approach that I wanted to talk today is um, a very gender neutral approach that I've always taken throughout my career being a woman in leadership. I never sought out for special uh, privileges because I'm a woman. I've always focused on performing just as well as how the other people in the organization performed. And I think ultimately you set the tone for how people treat you, and that's very essential in anybody's journey as a professional. Sure, like you might face challenges and stereotype and everything. I don't want to get into that topic right now, but all that you can do is you can handle those situations with grace and confidence, and that's how I have dealt those in my professional career. So for me, I can say it's crucial to avoid a victim mentality, saying like world is not fair for me, or I am not given a lot of opportunities and this and that. It's all about how can I make a difference and be vocal in what I bring to the table. That is very essential as a leader, as a performer, as a professional, and be open to volunteer for challenging assignments. And let's
Hmm.
not wait for someone to give us a chance to work on a challenging project, right? So that is something which I have learned over the period of time. Like, I don't want to wait for someone to come and tell me, like, Vani, you do this, but I go and raise my hand and say, like, let me work on this challenging assignment. You may not know everything in the beginning, how to handle it, but then put that effort and learn. And I'd also like to offer a tip, to my women fraternity. Like, there is no shame in leveraging the strengths of our male colleagues and learning from them, right? It's because it's not a competition between genders, and that's not how we should look at it. In fact, I can tell you, like, I have amazing allies, among my male colleagues and my boss, who've really supported in my growth journey. So that is a testament I really wanted to leave here. And because it's not just about getting, it's also about giving. Like, what do you offer to the table should come first, then what I can get from the organization or from the relationship that we built on. Performance excellence, and be it like making a positive impact, professionalism, and nurturing others. These are all the key strengths that we already inherit as women, which comes naturally. So let's leverage those skills which comes naturally to us, and work on the skills which we need to work on, like understand the opportunities of improvement and growth that we have to develop, and let's aim to be those top leaders in the IT organizations, or the dream organization that we want to be in.
Fantastic and very, very nice, nicely concluded, Vani. I think, um, avoiding that victim mindset and breaking out of the conditioning and looking at male colleagues as allies, uh, great points, and approaching uh, work in a more gender neutral way, um, makes a lot of sense, and I think it's a very healthy mind space to be in as you approach your development and leadership as women. I also want to say is, being a male, um, just like how you think being gender neutral is important, and being, getting out of the victim mindset is more important. It's also important for men to adopt a more feminist attitude, uh, because it helps us be sensitive to, uh, mostly invisible privilege that we carry, right? And it's important to be sensitive to that, and we understand that there is this privilege that we carry which shouldn't be, and if it is there, and how to kind of be sensitive towards it and all of that. I think that's crucial for us to
Absolutely.
have that feminist approach to gender differences, right? Just like how you said, approaching it gender neutral for you is more effective and more positive mind space. I think we need to approach it from a feminist perspective, so that we understand that we come from privilege and we come from power and all of that, and that needs to, we have to shed it, and we have to approach it from a more co-creation and co-owning point of view, both at work and at life, I think. And you beautifully said that how we can leverage our natural strengths, our own natural strengths, and each other mutually as well. I think when we look at it as a in a perspective of partnership, respect, and mutual growth and support, I think there is a world to conquer.
Absolutely. You have said such brilliant points, PJ. I'm kind of very impressed with the way you really formed it up, like, framed it up, driving respect, co-creation, and that generating that mutual respect for each other, and providing that safe space for the other person. Uh, you know brings it all as a closure when you want to work on whichever approach you take, which is comfortable for you as well as the other person. Being very mindful about the space that you're giving to the other person, irrespective of who that person is, your partner or your colleague or your boss or the person who's reporting to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here today, Vani. And I had a wonderful conversation, very insightful, and it triggered a lot of memories for me from my IT days. Uh, Great conversation, and thanks for being here. Appreciate the time.
Thank you so much for having me here. It was wonderful. Actually, it's so energizing and engaging, especially resonating with all your experiences in IT and corporate. This was truly a pleasure for me for being here today. Thank you for having me here, PJ.
Thank you, Vani.